franchise on the absolute brink of ultimate glory. And yet, somehow, suddenly standing on the edge of a sheer precipice. Everything changed in a matter of seconds following their grueling Super Bowl run. You see, the New England Patriots are currently facing a two-front war. On one side, we have a national media narrative that hardcore fans and local analysts alike are calling blatantly disrespectful. Unprecedented, really. On the other side, a rapidly brewing internal tension that threatens to completely crack the very foundation of their elite defense. The storm is gathering in Foxborough, folks, and the collateral damage from this could completely derail a championship window before it even fully opens. So you really have to ask yourself, how? How does a quarterback who just literally carried his entire franchise to the Super Bowl plummet all the way down to number 61 on a major national rankings list? I really want you to let that sink in for a moment. A young signal caller who completely captivated the league, who orchestrated incredibly deep, high-stakes playoff runs, who stood toe-to-toe with absolute giants of the sport, suddenly relegated to a total afterthought. Whether this is just a massive oversight or a targeted intentional narrative, it sets the stage for a massive, unshakable us versus the world mentality that is absolutely about to consume this locker room. Now, before we unpack the granular, unbelievable details of this brewing catastrophe, you need to make sure you are officially part of the Nexus. Subscribe to the NFL Nexus channel right now, like this explainer, drop a comment below with your thoughts on this entire situation as we go through it, and please support the channel by becoming a member. We are the premium home for hardcore, unfiltered football analysis, and we absolutely rely on you to keep the tape rolling. All right, let's dive into this. Section 1. The blatant disrespect. As the dust finally settled on the epic 2025 season, you would naturally expect a team that made it all the way to the final game of the year to be treated with at least some level of reverence. Instead, they're being treated like an absolute afterthought. I want you to look closely at this specific number, 61. CBS Sports analyst Pete Prisco recently released his highly anticipated top 100 NFL players ranking, and he inexplicably decided to place the 2025 MVP runner-up, Drake Maye, all the way down at 61st overall. 61st, for a player who was literally one single vote away from being crowned the most valuable player in the entire National Football League. This evaluation completely buries Maye behind a staggering number of veteran passers, raising massive, unavoidable red flags among anyone who actually watched him break out and dominate last season. Prisco put established guys like Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson up in the top 10. Okay, fine, we can understand the pedigree there. But then he placed Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, and Jared Goff ahead of Maye as well. Let's methodically look at the reality of that decision. Drake Maye secured 3 absolutely crucial playoff victories to reach the Super Bowl. He led high-pressure, game-winning drives when the lights were blindingly bright. The seasoned veterans ranked ahead of him, many of them missed the postseason entirely, or they completely folded under the pressure, failing to advance nearly as far. The sheer gap between Maye's tangible on-field playoff success and his off-season ranking is exactly what's driving the intense frustration bubbling up in New England right now. Section 2. An MVP-caliber season. To truly understand this dynamic, to get to the bottom of this, we need to shift the focus strictly to the cold, hard facts. We need to look at the explosive sophomore campaign Maye put together alongside offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Consider that first statistic, a 72% completion rate. Do you realize what a league-leading 72% completion rate actually means in practice for a second-year signal caller? It means surgical, unfazed precision while standing inside a collapsing pocket. It means rapidly processing complex, disguised defensive coverages that 10-year veteran quarterbacks still routinely struggle with. Add to that precision a massive 4,394 passing yards and 31 touchdowns against just 8 interceptions. But the thing is, he wasn't just a statue in the pocket. He added 450 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground. He's showcased a completely well-rounded dual-threat skill set that, frankly, very few quarterbacks on that CBS list could ever even dream of matching. When you look across the entire NFL landscape, Drake Maye stood out as an absolute titan. He ranked 4th in total passing yards. He ranked 3rd in passing touchdowns. Across 32 starting quarterbacks, the absolute elite of the elite in the world, Maye was in the top 4 in the most vital, foundational passing metrics. Furthermore, he ranked 4th among all quarterbacks in rushing yards and 8th in rushing touchdowns. The raw, undeniable production completely outpaces his number 61 placement, making the ranking not just questionable, but statistically baffling. Now, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room here. Prisco's main critique. His justification centered on what he called a postseason dip. And yes, if we look at the raw data across 4 grueling playoff games, Maye's completion rate did fall to 58.3%, managing 828 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. But we absolutely have to deeply analyze the context that these critics conveniently ignore to fit their narrative. Maye faced the most intense, suffocating defensive pressure in the league, all while playing behind an offensive line that was physically collapsing in real time due to catastrophic injuries. And let's not forget the pivotal Denver game. That game was played in freezing, harsh, brutal winter elements where merely gripping the football, let alone throwing it downfield, was a major physical feat. Despite all of that chaos, despite the elements and the injuries, he still found ways to win when it mattered most.
And honestly, if you won't take the pure statistics as proof, take it from a seasoned veteran who has seen actual greatness up close and personal. Former Patriots quarterback Brian Hoyer ranked Maye second overall in his own personal list. Why? Because of what happens entirely behind closed doors. Hoyer said A.J. Brown was talking about Drake taking over the meeting room. I was in a room with a guy who did that every day. Tom Brady. Think about the weight of those words. When a 23-year-old quarterback walks into a room full of hardened veterans and completely seizes absolute ownership, demanding perfection, holding everyone to the highest standard imaginable, that is the ultimate veteran validation. To his teammates, he is an unquestioned leader. To the national media, he's just number 61.
Section 3. The top 100 snubs. But you see, the perceived disrespect doesn't just stop at CBS Sports. We have to zoom out to a much broader NFL landscape issue because the tension is rapidly escalating beyond just one analyst's opinion. 4 days in, 80 total selections revealed on the NFL Network's prestigious Top 100 Player Voted poll, and so far, absolutely 0 New England Patriots. Not one single player. I want you to truly process that for a second. An entire 53-man roster that literally battled its way to the Super Bowl, being actively evaluated by their own peers across the league, and through the first 80 spots, total deafening silence. Jerod Mayo's roster has yielded absolutely no recognition in the 20 to 100 range. It is a state of quiet disbelief echoing through the halls of Gillette Stadium right now. Now, obviously, we assume the top 20 will naturally correct this to some degree. But look at the Patriots, who should be absolute no-doubt locks on this list. You have Drake Maye, obviously. But what about Milton Williams, the massive free agent pickup from Philadelphia, who literally collapsed the interior of opposing offensive lines week after week and was the MVP of a top 10 defense? What about A.J. Brown, a completely dominant, unguardable force out wide? And what about Christian Gonzalez? The expected elite are currently waiting in the wings for the top 20 reveal. But the mere fact that the foundational bedrock pieces of this roster haven't been called yet shows a glaring, undeniable blind spot in how this entire team is currently viewed by the rest of the league. Section 4. The internal threat. But right when you think this external media narrative is the biggest hurdle they have to face, everything violently pivots. Because the external situation, the disrespect, is only half the story here. A massive, ticking time bomb of an internal threat looms incredibly heavily over training camp. Let me clearly define exactly what is happening behind the scenes right now. It's called a hold-in. This is when a player physically reports to training camp, swiping their key card, strictly so they avoid the crushing mandatory daily fines levied by the league. But they utterly refuse to strap on a helmet or participate in any actual on-field practices until they secure a new lucrative contract extension. This isn't a traditional holdout, it's a hold-in. And the ticking clock of late July is currently counting down for star cornerback Christian Gonzalez. And right now, there is absolutely no news of an extension in sight. So, if the star corner, the absolute shutdown anchor of this entire defensive scheme, refuses to take the field, who on earth steps into the fire? I really want you to understand that framing Gonzalez's potential absence as merely a simple financial dispute is dangerously short-sighted. This is a critical, massive tactical vulnerability. It is a widening crack in the defense's foundation right as they prepare for what should be a highly anticipated championship or bust season. Without Gonzalez shutting down one side of the field, the entire coverage shell fundamentally changes. Section 5. Testing the secondary. Which brings us directly to the vital, pressing question. If Christian Gonzalez is standing on the sidelines in a bucket hat and a t-shirt, who must step up? To truly understand the immense pressure crashing down on these backups, you have to intimately understand the defensive culture here. Listen to what Carlton Davis said at a recent minicamp. He said, "I don't think anyone is coming here expecting success without putting in the work. That's just not how this team is built from the top down." This quote perfectly establishes the gritty, relentless, entirely unforgiving culture of the Patriots defense. The extreme expectations placed on this secondary mean that whoever steps in isn't just filling a roster spot to eat up snaps, they are expected to be an absolute showstopper. Now, thankfully for New England, two vital rungs of the top corner trio are firmly and securely intact. On the outside, you have the battle-tested veteran Carlton Davis. Remember, people severely doubted his $54 million free agent contract, labeling him as too grabby and injury-prone. But he went out and silenced absolutely everyone, playing a massive 91% of regular season snaps and starting all 4 highly intense playoff games at an exceptionally high level. Then on the inside, you have Marcus Jones. In a modern NFL that is completely obsessed with playing big, heavy nickels, Jones is breaking the traditional mold entirely. His incredibly unique, explosive athleticism allows the Patriots to excel with a smaller, more traditional slot corner who can fly around the field. They are the absolute foundation. But the harsh reality is, they cannot physically play every position.
So let's really dig in and look at this extreme depth chart analysis. If Gonzalez indeed holds in, it triggers a brutal, cutthroat fight for survival at the bottom of the roster. You have gritty veterans like Charles Woods, primarily a special teams guy, and Kindle Vildor, a well-traveled journeyman with 27 career starts, fighting tooth and nail for their NFL lives. Then you have massive, completely unknown wildcards like Marcellus Style, desperately trying to prove himself as he returns from a significant 2025 injury. And then there is the sheer youth. Guys like Kayron Prunty, a ball-hawking rookie, and Channing Canada, an undrafted speed corner. These young guys bring raw, unteachable electricity to the field, but they have absolutely zero meaningful NFL experience. Every single rep in training camp, every single one-on-one drill against a receiver will be an all-out war for that starting spot. Because if Gonzalez isn't there, someone has to line up against the best receivers in the world on week 1.
Section 6. The Ultimate Revenge Tour. So let's step back and look at the whole board. We have the blatantly perceived disrespect pouring in from the national media. We have the internal, highly volatile contractual tension threatening to sideline their undisputed star corner. When you take these separate threads and tie them all together, you don't just get a normal, quiet NFL offseason. You get the unified, combustible prologue for a massive revenge tour. 2026. The days just keep ticking off the calendar, faster and faster. The storm isn't looming on the horizon anymore, folks. It is here, right now, in Foxborough. These aren't just passing off-season reports for us to quickly brush past. These are the very sparks that are going to ignite a locker room that already firmly believe they should be holding the Lombardi Trophy right now. The pressure is absolutely suffocating. Which leads us directly to the ultimate defining question as we rapidly approach kickoff. Will this unprecedented, baffling narrative from the national media, combined with the heavy, looming internal pressure of a defensive hold-in, forge an unbreakable diamond out of this roster? Or will it finally be the thing that cracks the Patriots' foundation? The stakes have literally never been higher for this group, and every single snap this season is going to be incredibly heavy with consequence. You simply cannot look away from how this is going to unfold. If you want to follow every single twist, turn, and development of this gathering storm, you absolutely need to be locked in right here. Subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. Hit that like button on this explainer so we know you want more of this intense, deep dive content. Drop into the comments below. Seriously, who do you think steps up if Gonzalez ends up sitting out? We want to hear your take. And most importantly, support the grueling work we do here by becoming a channel member today. This is your premium home for granular, uncompromising football analysis. I will see you all in the next one.